horrible. It is so bad. This is the worst class so far that I have played.
Hello everyone, hope you're all having a wonderful day. ISNT here, and today guys we're going to be going over my Earth Shaker Druid build, the big werebear Druid, smash everything, everything dies build. Now a lot of people did say the Druid wasn't very good. That statement has some truth to it. Early game the Druid is kind of shit. He's not that fun to level up with, but it is rewarding once you do get the legendary aspects that you do need, and the Druid is probably one of the most hungriest legendary aspect classes out of the whole entire beta. But again, when you do get the legendary aspects, the Druid starts firing off on all cylinders. We are going to quickly go over the pros and cons of this Druid build. Now the pros are that you get good survivability, you get actually fantastic survivability. We actually have good spirit regen. One of the biggest issues I see people talk about with Druid is we don't have passive spirit regen, so I have skills to try and fix or mitigate that issue. And of course we do good damage. We do big damage, good AoE, pretty decent single target. It could be better. Again, this build isn't super min-maxed yet. I've only just gotten the legendary aspects. I could have gone out and trying to get way better gear, which I might try and do today if I have time. But overall it is pretty solid, but of course there is some cons to this build. There's not a few, but obviously the first con is that you do need a lot of legendary aspects to get this working. Well, you need a few to get it started, but to then increase the damage further, you do need a legendary aspect. And the big werebear boy, he is a little slow. He is a little slow with his attacks, but his attacks are very impactful, and you, like I said, you can do big damage. But again, yeah, he is just a bit slow. Now moving on over to the skills that we are taking, guys, we are putting 1 point into Storm Strike. Now Storm Strike is just there to generate spirit, and it is also there to immobilize and also make enemies vulnerable. We have a 50% chance to make enemies vulnerable, so every 2 hits, that enemy should be getting made vulnerable, so we can do 20% extra damage. Now moving on over to the core skills, of course we are taking Pulverize. Pulverize is insanely strong with the right legendary aspect. Every 10 seconds our Pulverize will overpower as long as we're healthy, and we're always going to be staying healthy, so we're always going to be getting that overpowered bonus. And then enemies hit with Pulverize also deal 20% reduced damage. And I also forgot to mention that Storm Strike also does that as well. Storm Strike also, when you hit an enemy, they deal 25% reduced damage, which is very nice. So automatically there we are, for as long as we're Storm Striking and Pulverizing, we have 45% damage reduction. We are going to be putting 1 point into Heart of the Wild, only to get us to the next tier, which is Wild Impulses. Now Wild Impulses, our core skill, costs 15% more spirit, but it deals 30% more damage, which is going to make... So this is going to let a Pulverize hit harder, and it is just a flat out damage increase at all times as well. So very nice. Moving on over to the defensive skill, guys, we do have the Earthen Bulwark. I feel like everyone's going to be taking Earthen Bulwark because it's just that good. So we're going to be surrounding ourselves with rocks, which is basically a barrier, and it's going to be granting us 45% protection of our base life. Now, when we use Earthen Bulwark, we become unstoppable, which means we can break out of CCs, which is really good for just not having to dodge boss mechanics. And then casting Earthen Bulwark also fortifies us, so that is also really, that is just another layer of survivability. That gives us a 10% damage reduction. So already we have 55% damage reduction, which is why this build has such good survivability. Now moving on over to another defensive that we are taking, and that is Bloodhowl. Now Bloodhowl lets us shapeshift into a werewolf. We howl, we gain 20% of our maximum life. So again, more survivability. Now if we get kills, it reduces the cooldown of Bloodhowl by 1 second, which is fantastic because we're always going to be using Bloodhound to keep replenishing our spirit, which is the last point. And this is going to be really good because you're going to be using Bloodhound to get spirit back and health back, and then you kill enemies, and it basically, you just kill one big pack of enemies and you instantly get Bloodhound back again, so which then lets you just go straight into the next mob pack and drop Pulverize instantly without having to worry about charging up your spirit, because we don't have goddamn passive spirit regeneration. Anyway, now we aren't taking anything into the companions. I know there is some crazy stuff you can do with the companions, though I just didn't get the aspects for it. But we are going to be moving on down to the Wrath, and we are going to be taking Trample. Now, Trample lets us shapeshift into a werebear, becoming unstoppable. Again, another way to break out of CCs. And we charge forward, dealing 126 damage to enemies. Enemies who are knocked back into terrain, they take additional damage, and they also become stunned for 3 seconds. So this is really, really good for crowd control. Now, we have taken the modifiers where Trample deals a bonus 30% damage. This bonus is reduced by 15% for each enemy we hit afterwards. And then the best thing about Trample as well is it's another spirit generator. So we are going to be using Bloodhound and Trample kind of like on cooldown just to recharge our spirit. And we only really need to use Storm Strike like once or twice just to build up stuff from an aspect and to make enemies vulnerable. Now moving on down to the ultimate guide. Now the ultimates to me felt like a little lackluster. I tried like everything out and I wasn't really sure what I particularly liked. Petrify has its uses. Cataclysm is okay. Grizzly Rage seems like the best one just because I've taken the extra point into Grizzly Rage to make it unstoppable the whole time. The only issue is if you pop this at the wrong time of a boss fight, you're kind of stuck in Grizzly Rage for 20 seconds, and using Maul to recharge your spirit back, it's kind of slow compared to like Wind Shear or Storm Strike. Yeah, Grizzly Rage is good, but it's very situational. You can use it to roll through packs all day, every day. It's really fun to do that because you get the increased damage reduction. We nearly have 100% damage reduction while we're in Grizzly Rage. But yeah, you kind of just get locked into the actual ultimate itself. I wish you could go into the ultimate and then maybe have you could press the Grizzly Rage button again to come back out of it. I'm not sure if they would do something like that, but I feel like that'd be really cool because then you could just go on Grizzly Rage, you could Trample, Dampen Roar, then you've got like a bit of time in Grizzly Rage, then dump your Pulverizers with Overpower, pop out of Grizzly Rage, and then just continue your rotation with building up Spirit that way instead of having to use goddamn Maul, because the Druid is quite slow. He is a slow boy. Now, quickly just going over all the legendary aspects I'm taking. My gear isn't that great, it's just the legendary aspects that we're going to be going over. So the first one we have is when we are fortified, our earth skills gain a +2 to ranks. I'm not sure if this was exactly working. It definitely wasn't showing that at +2 ranks on like the hotbar there. I'm not sure if that's just a visual bug or whatnot. But we are taking this because we are turning Pulverize into an earth skill. And now for the chest plate, we have the aspect where it increases the duration of our Earthen Bulwark for 6 seconds. So that makes our Earthen Bulwark last for 15 seconds now. In addition, when we kill enemies with our Earth skill, we do replenish 16 of our active Earthen Bulwark barrier, which is great because then the more barrier, the more survivability, and it stays on for a very long time now. Now for the gloves, we do have deal 23% increased damage while we have a barrier active. Now we are always going to be having a barrier active because if we move straight on to the next piece that we have, the leg piece, we do have the aspect that when we're damaging an elite enemy, it grounds as a barrier absorbing 408 damage for 10 seconds. If you can time your burst windows correctly, you can go and damage an elite enemy, wait 10 seconds for this to go away, and then pop your Earthen Bulwark, and that way we always have the barrier bonus from our wrist, from our glove piece. This aspect you don't really need, it's just damaging, and damage from Earth skills slows enemies by 45%. I mean, it's nice, it's not really needed. I probably would rather want something else there, I'm just not sure what. Now, the next aspect is attacking enemies with basic skill increases the damage of your next core cast by 20% up to 50%. So that's why I was saying we just use Storm Strike twice to make enemies vulnerable. And to build up this aspect, dump Pulverize, it's basically going to be doing 40-50% extra damage on top of the barrier bonus, everything else. You can start to see why Pulverize does like 3k crits when it overpowers easily. Now you will notice on this staff we have a shit ton overpower damage. I will let you guys know now we are running 140% extra overpower damage with a staff and probably a little bit of gear, as well as willpower. Willpower does increase overpower damage as well as skill damage with the Druid. I hope you guys are still with me. We're nearly there. We're nearly there. I'm not sure how long this video is actually going to be. Now the last three things are our jewelry. So this one is Pulverize, is now also an earth skill. After casting Pulverize, tectonic plates continue to deal 218 damage. This is pretty good. I mean, it makes our Pulverize become like a bit of an AoE. The main thing we want from this is the fact that Pulverize is now becoming an earth skill. So now it's going to get bonuses from any of the earth bonuses that we decide to take. Now the star of the show, these are the two that you kind of need. The one that changes the one that makes your Pulverize become an earth skill, and the one that makes Pulverize create a shockwave that travels forward, dealing 126% of its damage to targets in its path. Now, this could have been stronger. I do have the necklace here that has it up to 159 or 156, 159%. Yeah, so if I mean, I've stuffed up here. I could have switched these two aspects around and not had that on my necklace, put on my ring, and it probably would be doing an absolute bucket ton of damage. So that means when we pulverize, it shoots off a shockwave, and that shockwave does more than your pulverize. So if you overpower that shockwave, it's sniping people at distance. So these are two must-have aspects just to get this build to work. Everything else is just like icing on top of the cake. Last but not least, guys, we got skills deal up to 29% increased damage based on your available primary resource when cast. So we are going to be trying to keep it, we are going to be basically trying to keep our spirit as high as possible with Blood, Howl, and Trample. And then when we don't pulverize, when we have max spirit, it does do 29% increased damage. Again, add that on top of everything else. Yep, this is why this build jives so hard. But again, the issue is you need so many legendary aspects to get this build to work. So it is more probably late game. I can see Druid, Barbarian, even Rogue being super strong late game, just because of how they kind of start out. Rogue's a bit of a different category, but definitely Druid and Barbarian. I think later game they might be insanely powerful, especially with the Paragon board. We'll have to see how that all plays out. So my final thoughts on this build: I did thoroughly enjoy it. Again, leveling sucks. The leveling process with this, I was playing with friends, and I honestly, if I wasn't playing with friends, I probably wouldn't have been able to do most of the content early on. That is just how bad Druid is actually early on. But like I said, but when you do get all the aspects, it is an absolute monster, literally turning into a werebear and smashing the ground. It's super satisfying, and they've nailed Pulverize. Pulverize feels so good with these aspects on. It actually feels like you're about to break the fucking earth underneath your feet. I absolutely love it. I had so much fun with this Druid build when it was working. If this build video did help you out, guys, could you please like and subscribe? It greatly helps the channel out. I can't believe we have to wait 2 months for this game to officially come out, but when it does, I really cannot wait to just go ham on all the characters, try it as just many builds, and try and bring you guys as many videos as possible. Appreciate all love and support as always, guys. Until next time, stay safe. Peace out.